Matt, I'm going to return to you on a point that you made right at the top of this webinar on policy instability. Is this a problem that we're always going to have, especially in the clean energy or the hydrogen space going forward? You know, we've got various governments around the world, various different agendas. So is this going to be a problem inevitably?
Yeah, well, it's we thought we'd had a landing in particularly in the EU around what RED 2 said and RED 3 around what is clean hydrogen, what is green hydrogen, and its derivatives for RFMBO status. Every time that moves, it creates instability, and that creates nervousness for investors. I think that there needs to be some kind of grandfathering protection around any change in the future. So if I'm building a project today, I can rely on the laws that are in place today for the entirety of my project. I'm not looking at a change halfway through that's going to undermine the economics on which I made my initial investment. That just doesn't work. Who put that money into something like that? You need a crystal ball, and I think that's got to be addressed front and center. We can't have the goalpost being moved. It's got to evolve. Legislation has to evolve, but that can't be at the expense of earlier investment. So there needs to be that mechanism. And at the moment, we don't have that level of certainty.
Sure. And Adam, do you have a take on policy instability and the problems that this is going to cause?
Yeah, I mean, even if the policy is right, I mean, we all, well, maybe those of us old enough remember, when Spain, retroactively attacked the solar industry. A lot of people saw that as essentially equivalent to sovereign default, and in many ways it was. But these are real political risks out there. I mean, the UK, not just in hydrogen, but with its contract for difference approach, which is essentially creating a price stability rather than a price subsidy. Those contracts are with essentially a third party that is not political, set up to established to give a degree of confidence that it's an independent body, and I think that's quite helpful. It's quite helpful now that the EU is looking at the contract for difference model. In fact, both the EU and China are looking at that model, and I think because it comes back to it addresses risk. It's not about giving money; it's about addressing risk, and I think that's the most important thing to getting finance into the sector.
Thanks, Adam. And John, from that US perspective, policy instability, we've seen plenty of development in US policy in clean energy and hydrogen in the last few years. So what would your take on that be?
I'm going to be honest and say that the Trump administration has thrown a tremendous amount of instability and risk into everything in sustainable fuels and chemicals. A good example would be there was an announcement just a couple of weeks ago that the administration was canceling the hydrogen hubs, which are individual hydrogen programs, as my panel members know, in blue states that did not vote for Trump. So these are billions of dollars that came out of the U.S. Department of Energy Loan Programs Office for these huge first-of-a-kind hydrogen projects meant to scale up first-of-a-kind risk with the government's money. And seemed like a great idea under the Biden administration. And there were the Section 45 tax credits under the Inflation Reduction Act that would have incentivized those developers. But now everything is sort of off the rails. And it's part of one of the reasons why I wanted to jump over to the UK and Europe and work with you guys, because it's absolute insanity in the US right now. And anyway, I don't know what else to say other than when a president is able to basically sort of retroactively go back and cancel huge, billion-dollar hydrogen hub projects in the U.S. in red states, you've got some larger problems than just the nuances of project financing to deal with.